Turn our attention very quickly to the Eagle Square, where political correspondent Ademola Lawrence is standing by. Ademola, Eagle Square would usually have come alive, on a day like this with guards of parade, government functionaries and guests from around the world. But the situation is different this year. Walk us through the peculiarity of this year's celebration.
Yeah, the peculiarity of this year's celebration is, of course, the fact that the federal government have said this year will be on a low key. And one would have thought, because it's the 30th anniversary of June 12th, so this place should be filled with government functionaries, and of course, every Nigerian probably should be at this particular Eagle Square to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the June 12th. And if you look at the peculiarity as well, looking at the president himself, who was part of that particular struggle way back in June 12, 1993. So one would have also thought that probably there's going to be a celebration of some sort, but of course it's not happening. This is what it is like, and this is the reality that we are faced with. Because one of the things probably the president is also looking at is probably cutting costs in celebrating this year's Democracy Day. So it's mixed feelings for some people that probably fought in that particular June 12, that struggle. Maybe some of them would have thought that at this particular arena, which of course has history of hosting political events of some sort, so probably they thought they would be here. But of course, it's the other way around, and the federal government of the nation thinks in its wisdom that let's do this on a low key. Looking at the peculiarities that the nation is, of course, trying to pave its way through economic viability, and of course, looking at how they can be able to put the right peg in the right hole and make Nigerians' life more better. So that's why this year's own is more of a low key. And I can also tell you, I'm not sure since 2018, when the President Buhari actually said June 12 will now be Democracy Day, there have not been any Democracy Day celebration at this particular ground. So the 30th anniversary would have been different, but of course, it's a different ball game.
Absolutely. Let's explore the mood today on Democracy Day. Have you spoken with people? What do they make of the low-key celebration this year, Ademola?
Yes, of course. Before I came down to the Eagle Square, of course, I went to round some places in Abuja to speak to people. What is the mood for them at this year's Democracy Day? And listen, this is what they say.
Ademola, we're going to bring all of the details as to the interview you had on the street in the course of this program. Quickly, let us talk about how significant where you are is. The return to democracy began right there when in 1999, General Abdulsalami Abubakar handed over to President Olusegun Obasanjo, and other commanders-in-chief have also taken their oath of office right at that square. I think there are about 4 of them now. What are the chances that Democracy Day celebration will return to the Eagle Square anytime soon under this administration?
Yeah, just like you rightly said, since 1999, when the power, of course, exchanged hands at this particular ground here at the Eagle Square, different administrations have come and gone, and this is the President Bola Tinubu administration. So one of the things that Nigerians will be looking forward to is the fact that how these administration, of course, will be able to sustain the democracy that we have had since 1999, and because it was part of that particular struggle. So one will also think that, okay, it will be able to sustain the true democracy that we are already enjoying. If you look at what the president said this morning in his presidential speech, he said Nigerians must be able to rededicate, their sacrifice to make sure that the democracy that we're actually enjoying, some people have suffered for, will be able to enjoy it and to a long-lasting time, just to paraphrase. And of course, you talked about how the president also made reference to that. Nigeria needs to sacrifice the more. And in sacrificing the more, meaning that we need to, of course, know how to sustain the democracy that we're actually enjoying. 24 years of that democracy that we're enjoying now. So a lot of things are actually embroidered in that particular message. And going forward is the fact that Nigeria needs to sustain its democracy. Looking at this ground, power has changed, and from President Obasanjo down to Yar'Adua, down to President Jonathan, down to President Buhari, and now President Bola Tinubu, who is, of course, like I said, one of the major actors of June 12 in 1993.
It speaks to perhaps why his speech today was unique to the previous one we've had in the past years, as an individual who, actually played a prominent role during the June 12 struggle. Perhaps the next year, when Nigeria will be celebrating a quarter of a century of unbroken democratic rule, the Tinubu administration might take an exception to its cost-cutting policy to roll out the drums. Who knows? But quickly, let us talk about just how significant this day is, coming before the inauguration of the 10th Assembly, and the need to begin to explore a more democratic principle in, electing the leadership of the House.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. Why? Because in sustaining democracy, the legislative arm of government has a very pivotal role to play in that particular sequence, looking at it from the angle of how hands can shake between the legislative and the executive. So it is very important that the President Bola Tinubu administration will be able to work with a legislative, of course, not a stamp democracy, a stamp legislative, but of course one that can work for the betterment of the Nigerian people. So it is very important as the NAS gets to elect his leaders in the coming, just tomorrow, by tomorrow, of course, they'll be electing their leaders. It is very important that one thing that should be on the minds of every leader that is going to be serving this country is the welfare of every Nigerian. So what are the policies that is going to be put on the table? What is the legislative arm going to be doing to make sure that the Nigerian people are in for a good and better life? Looking at the fact that the mantra for the President Bola Tinubu administration is the renewed hope. How renewed is that hope is what Nigerians will be waiting for. Looking at the ant that will shake between the legislative and the executive.
Get back to Ademola, who is currently at the Eagle Square. Ademola, talk more about the interview you had with a cross-section of people earlier today in Abuja, and let's have the details.
Okay, earlier today I spoke to some persons, of course, in Abuja. Mixed feelings about today, but let's listen to them, and this is what they have to say. What should Nigerians respect for
Nigerians should be expecting a good living, good standard of living for the masses, and then also for some private firms that has multinational companies, because a lot of persons are passing through a lot through their companies, through their firms, due to some personal interests, some blacks that works with multinational companies. But the thing is, we know with The way things are going with the president, he has good intention, but we pray try to look downward to the masses, precisely the masses, because there's a lot going on. The minds are actually bleeding.
The president said Nigeria should sacrifice them.
Yeah, for good things to come to play, they should be sacrificed. Yeah. We'll be sacrificing over the years. It's no need to us. But we'll pray our sacrifice this time around to tell good about. So we should speak good of what will come for us.
So tell me, what's your take on today's democracy day?
I'm thinking of today's democracy day as they have done it successfully, and then all our expectation on government is let the good thing happen, and we have been seeing like the government is going to do something good, and definitely we have much expectation about this government because Mr. President is a politician, since from the grassroots. So definitely people are going to move out from this mess that has been happening. If you can see, in just few days, they have tackled so many things that is hooking Nigerians in the neck. So our expectation is something good, and we pray for him. May the Almighty Allah take him and guide him to the right lane for his administrative.
Removal of the subsidy, we are not finding it easy. They should look for alternative to make it easy for the masses. Transportation, you understand, we are not getting it easy. So they should do it in a way at least it should be better for us. That is just my own.
So what's I don't know if you listened to the president's message this morning. He said Nigerians should be ready to make more sacrifice.
Okay.
And some are saying that we have made sacrifices since the days of the past war.
Yeah.
Obviously going to be making more sacrifice. What about the sacrifice on the part of government?
That is exactly what I'm trying to tell you. You understand? We've endured for long, and now removal of subsidy was like, it's like removal of subsidy will make us but now we want a better way. They should remove it, but let's have it easier. You understand? That's just my own.
What we're expecting to receive, we are not receiving it. We're expecting in a way that even if things is not 100% okay, but at least every common man will have his living in the society. And looking at the situation of things now, everybody goes along looking for his own daily bread without government providing enough job opportunity for us.
I don't know if you listened to the president this morning. He said Nigerians should be ready to make more sacrifice. What's your take on that?
We have been making sacrifice all the years, right from the time of Obasanjo till now. When we sacrifice, and let the government make the sacrifice and provide.
So if you listen to them, of course, it was a mixed reactions for some of them. Some believe that, of course, Nigerians need to sacrifice more, just like the president has said in his speech this morning. And some think that, we have been sacrificing for a long time, since 1999, when Nigeria had back its democracy. So it's a mixed feelings between some Nigerians who have spoken this morning. But one thing is very sure. The administration of President Ademola Lawrence, of course, in his mantra, giving a renewed hope. The hope is yet to be felt by most Nigerians. Of course, it's just 2 weeks or 3 weeks into the administration. But one thing is certain. And when the president was speaking this morning, and he spoke about the first subsidy, talking about that decision that he took, of course, didn't sit well with some persons, but it's for the interest of Nigerians that he took that particular decision that he took on May 29, when he announced that, of course, the first subsidy had gone. So it's different for people to actually pin it down to this particular administration, whether things are going to go the way they want it or they are not.
Absolutely.
But one thing is very sure: hope is alive for Nigerians.
Indeed. And
of course the mantra for the president.
Ademola, Nigerians are counting on renewed hope, and they will be asking a lot of questions in the coming days. The president earlier today was quoted to have said, "I feel your pain," as regards the removal of fuel subsidy, and he said, "Let's sacrifice a little more for the survival of our country." One of your one of the respondents you spoke with said, we have been sacrificing for a while now, but he has promised to repay with investment in infrastructure and quite a number of other things. Ademola Lawrence for us live there at Eagle Square.